Hello everyone. Today we will dive into a chilling story about Ikiryō, also known as the living spirit, a strange phenomenon in Japanese culture. Ikiryō is the soul of a living person that can leave their body and wander like a ghost. What makes this spirit particularly unsettling is that it can cause bizarre events ranging from harming others to inadvertently harming the person it belongs to, all without them even realizing it. The story begins in a distant village where unexplained phenomena occur continuously, filling the villagers with fear. When someone from the village suddenly disappears, leaving behind a lifeless body, the strange events become more pronounced. Could Ikiryō be the culprit? Or is there a darker secret waiting to be uncovered? Do you believe it's possible to live and die at the same time? Ikiryō, the living spirit, will make you rethink the boundaries between life and death. Our story begins in a small village nestled deep within the lush hills of Japan, where a woman named Miyu lived. She was a kind and gentle woman living with her husband and 2 children in a modest home. Their life seemed peaceful, but ever since Miyu's family moved to this village, everything began to change. Strange occurrences started happening, turning the village atmosphere dark and mysterious. On late nights, villagers often heard strange footsteps echoing through the empty streets. At times, they would hear their names being whispered in the darkness as if someone was standing very close. But when they looked around, no one was there. Odd, heavy breathing would also be heard, making people feel as though they were being watched. Yet the most peculiar thing was that no one in the village could explain these events, and only Miyu seemed to sense the presence of something invisible, leaving her confused and terrified. Everyone in the village was baffled by what was happening, unaware that Miyu, the kind and gentle woman, was the very cause of all these eerie phenomena. After a sleepless night, Miyu began to feel a strange emptiness enveloping her. It felt as though she was no longer herself, as if something was terribly wrong inside her body. The strange events continued, but she couldn't explain them. Everything around her seemed to change mysteriously, and despite her best efforts to stay calm, she couldn't stop feeling anxious and confused. One evening, unable to bear it any longer, Miyu decided to take a walk to clear her mind. But what she didn't realize was that at that moment, her soul had left her body and transformed into an Ikiryō, a living spirit. She wandered through the village, unaware that she was no longer a living person, but merely a shadow, a spirit lost without self-awareness. Miyu's soul drifted through the village with no memory of what she was doing, yet terrifying events began to unfold. While her real body sat in her house, her spirit began affecting those around her. Her invisible presence created an unsettling feeling, and those who came into contact with her spirit began to experience strange and inexplicable changes. One of the victims was Kaito, a man from the village. After unintentionally encountering Miyu's spirit, he started noticing strange changes in himself. He couldn't understand why, but the feeling of being watched overwhelmed him. Kaito began hearing his name being called from the darkness, a voice with no clear origin, as if someone were following him from a place he couldn't see. The haunting grew more intense, and Kaito couldn't escape the unsettling sensation. Each night, the calls grew louder, preventing him from sleeping peacefully. The feeling of a spirit lurking in the shadows, watching his every move, made him begin to doubt if Miyu was truly a living person or just an Ikiryō, wreaking havoc on the lives of everyone around her. After nights of sleeplessness haunted by the strange phenomena, Kaito, Miyu's close friend, knew he could no longer sit idly by. He felt an intense need to uncover the truth behind the terrifying events happening in the village. Gradually, Kaito began to sense a strange connection between these occurrences and Miyu, the friend he had known for so long. He increasingly suspected that Miyu's soul might be an Ikiryō, a living spirit, leaving her body and causing these inexplicable phenomena. To learn more, Kaito began asking the villagers and searching for old stories about supernatural events that had occurred in the area. He heard about spirits that were not just ordinary ghosts, but had the ability to leave their living bodies and cause calamities that no one could control. After an extensive search, Kaito discovered something deeply terrifying. Ikiryō was not a new phenomenon, but an ancient curse that had long been a part of Japanese culture. Kaito sought out an elderly villager, the only one who still remembered stories about Ikiryō and living spirits. The old man told him that, over the years, there had been spirits who unknowingly harmed others. These spirits were not aware of their actions, and whatever they did was just part of an uncontrollable curse. As the old man recounted past cases, Kaito was horrified to realize that Miyu was the most recent case. When her soul left her body, it had no intention to harm anyone, but the resentment and anger in her heart had caused her to lose control over her actions. She had no idea that her Ikiryō was the one causing all the chaos in the village. Now Kaito had to face a terrifying truth. Miyu, despite being a kind friend, was the one responsible for the horrifying events plaguing the village, actions she could not control. A sense of panic and confusion overwhelmed Kaito, and he knew that he had to do something to stop this dangerous cycle before everything spiraled further out of control. After discovering the terrifying truth about Ikiryō and realizing that Miyu was the cause of the disasters in the village, Kaito knew he could not remain passive. He had to face her and help her break free from this dreadful curse. Though panic and confusion filled his heart, he decided to go to Miyu's house, where she still lived with her family, to reveal the truth. He could not allow Miyu's soul to continue causing pain to her and those around her. When Kaito arrived, Miyu seemed dazed, as though she was not fully conscious. Her eyes were empty, staring into the void as if lost within her own mind. Kaito sat beside her, filled with both concern and resolve. He spoke gently. "Miyu, you don't know this, but your soul has left your body and is causing all the suffering in the village. You don't remember the things you've done, but they are all caused by your Ikiryō." Kaito could feel the confusion in Miyu's gaze. She froze, speechless, but a sense of guilt and fear slowly enveloped her. She didn't remember the actions of her spirit, but now she understood that it was her Ikiryō that was destroying everything around her. She couldn't deny this truth. Kaito looked at her with compassionate eyes, trying to help her realize that this wasn't her fault, but a curse she couldn't control. He explained further. "To end this curse, you must accept the truth about your soul. You must free yourself. The only way to free yourself from all the suffering, not just for you, but for those around you, is to perform a ritual of prayer to release your soul from the Ikiryō." Miyu remained silent, tears streaming down her face, anguished by the pain she had caused. She didn't want to live under the haunting influence of a spirit she couldn't control, and she certainly didn't want to continue harming those she loved. Finally, with a choked voice, Miyu agreed. I will perform the ritual. I will release my soul." These words felt like a pivotal decision, not just for Miyu, but for Kaito and everyone affected by her spirit. Miyu knew she had to face herself and release her soul from the Ikiryō curse before it was too late. With Kaito's devoted help, Miyu decided to perform an ancient ritual, a sacred ceremony to free her soul from the torment of Ikiryō. The ritual was to take place beside an old temple, the very place where her soul had been trapped for so many years. That night, as the temple fell silent and only the faint light of oil lamps illuminated the surroundings, Miyu stood before the altar, her heart filled with resolve and compassion. In that sacred moment, Miyu's soul was set free. The waves of resentment within her gradually faded, and Ikiryō ceased to exist. As the ritual concluded, a profound peace enveloped the space, as if a nightmare had finally come to an end. Miyu was no longer an Ikiryō. She had returned to herself, a woman at peace, no longer burdened by obsession or revenge in her heart. Immediately after the ritual, the village returned to tranquility. The strange phenomena, the eerie sounds, and the shadowy apparitions no longer appeared. The villagers were no longer afraid, and the anxiety that had gripped them was finally lifted. Miyu had been freed, and now she could live peaceful days with her family and friends. No longer a part of Ikiryō, the group of young friends, especially Kaito, learned an important lesson. Sometimes a soul does not just need revenge, it needs to be freed from the pain it carries. Forgiveness and liberation are the only ways to break the cycle of resentment. And so, the story of Ikiryō comes to an end, but the question still lingers in our hearts. Can living spirits truly exist in our world? And if they do, can we help these souls find the peace and liberation that Miyu ultimately found? Thank you all for following along with the story. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next captivating tales.